There are over 32 million businesses in the U.S., and over 90% of them will never break 7 figures in annual sales. So how do we as entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs break into that 7 figures club? This podcast will relentlessly share the secrets, strategies, and tactics I've used to create 3 multi-7 figures businesses and bring in even more successful entrepreneurs than me to share their inspirational stories and tactics to success. You can create your dream business and life right now. So buckle up and let's go. Okay, everybody, welcome to today's 7 Figures Partners podcast. Today, we have the fortunate opportunity to, ask some questions and listen to an entrepreneur who has gone through an amazing journey. We are going to be meeting Brent Williams, who is the founder of Dental Select, where for over 30 years, he guided this company to phenomenal growth as its CEO. And Dental Select provides employment for over 100 people, has created an amazing culture, and they currently serve over 470,000 individuals and families by providing quality dental and vision insurance. And just recently, Dental Select was acquired by Emeritus Life Insurance for a large sum. And as was the case back in 1989, insurance is still too complex, too frustrating, and too expensive for too many individuals. But Dental Select has always grown when it refuses to accept the status quo and does things differently. And while the company has come a long way, it's still a young and hungry group committed to that original vision of simple and affordable access to dental care for all. That's an amazing vision there, Brent. Has that vision kind of been the same over this period of 30 years that you built this company, or has it changed or pivoted in any way?
The vision's, well, thank you for having me on here, actually. I appreciate the interest in my story. I think that the vision's never changed. I think how you see it and how you define it and how you get more granular with it, and it does morph over time, but ultimately it's the same. It was just provide affordable quality dental plans to families and employers and things that otherwise couldn't afford them, or their needs weren't being met.
Perfect. I think a simple vision is what helps companies become great. You look at the different companies like Apple and Google and Under Armour that have simple visions, and then of course they grow and expand, but that original vision seems to be what drives a lot of the success.
Yeah, it went from just, we had all kinds of mission statements at the beginning. I can't ever remember them all, to be honest with you, but what it morphed down to was and it was probably 3 or 4 years ago, we came up with this one, and it was make dental simple. And that was it. Because health insurance and all these insurances are fairly complicated for people to use. They don't understand their benefits. They don't understand why insurance companies pay what they pay. They don't understand their EOBs that come in the mail and all the complexities that go around that. People hate it. They really don't like it. It's frustrating. Medical's worse than dental, of course, but it's just frustrating. People just want to walk out and be done like they're in a grocery store. And but dental and health insurance and things like that, it's the only transaction that we have as consumers that the financial transaction is not finished when you leave the place of business. In fact, it's just beginning. In fact, it may last months and sometimes years before you actually have that transaction complete, that's the part that's unacceptable in our market.
No question. Now, going back to the beginning of this journey, what led you to have the confidence to launch this business?
Young and blind. I'll just be honest with you. I'm originally from Canada, and I had the Canadian version of a CPA up there, and I wanted to come down to the U.S. and do the American dream, and came down with virtually, I had about $2,000 in my pocket, and I was young. I was like 26 years old, and didn't know what I was going to do. And fortunately, my first venture ended up being a success. But the confidence is really, it's more out of necessity. I think you just want it, and you don't really know how to get it. I mean, when you're 26 years old, I don't care how educated you are, until you've gone through the hard knocks of, managing people and markets and distribution channels. And there's nothing that can teach you that. And so confidence is just, well, my wife calls it grit. You know, it's not really confidence, it's more grit. It's being able to handle the pitfalls and stand up again and brush yourself off and go again and not stop. It's all about that tenacity, that grit. And I think I had a lot of that. I had a lot of that throughout my life, and that's what really gave me that, I guess, so to speak, confidence.
Perfect. And that's kind of where we wanted to go next is what was your upbringing like and how did that affect you or kind of mold you into becoming a risk taker or an entrepreneur?
Well, my education is about the opposite of being a risk taker. I'm trained as an accountant. You know, accountants are pretty, you know, bean counters are usually pretty conservative. We just do numbers, let someone else take all those risks. But I actually started out in my first entrepreneurial adventure was early. I grew up on a cattle ranch. So number one, I learned how to work really hard, you know, up in the morning, doing chores, you know, every weekend when my friends were having fun. In the evening again, you do that whole cycle all over again, chores again, milking the cow, the whole deal. And it taught me how to work hard. So anything was easy after that, you know, really. It's because, you know, running a ranch is pretty intense because you have animals and you've got to take care of them. But in the 12th grade, I borrowed $20,000 from our local cattle feeders association, and I bought feeder cattle and I raised them and fed them over the winter, and you know, you sell them to on auction in the spring after they gained a lot of weight. And I did that, and unfortunately that year the cattle market kind of went down, and at best I broke even. I might have lost a little money, and I worked all winter long doing this, and I just felt, you know, I guess that's not, being a rancher is not what I really want to do. And at that moment I switched from ranching and went right into accounting. Really it was fortunate I did that. Not that ranching's bad, and I love it, and I'm more of an armchair rancher. I look out at the fields now and outside my house and watch them hay and critique them. But it's that that's kind of how I got. That was my first thing, and after, you know, I worked for accounting firms for a while, and then I worked for a large company as their CFO when I was 25 years old, which I don't know how I even got that job, but I did. That's another long story. But I was doing business deals, buying, selling companies, and for the owner of the company I was working for, and I just felt I could do this myself because I was doing everything, you know. And I was young, and really, you're kind of stupid, and stupidity blocks you from a certain amount of fear. You know, the older you get, the more fear you have because you know more. So.
No question. So as a senior in high school, you borrow $20,000, start your own cattle business, work your butt off an entire winter, and then basically break even or lose a lot of money. You're like, dang. So definitely learned a lot, but already we're taking risks as an entrepreneur. And then as you went through the process of becoming an accountant or CPA, then you get on as a CFO, which is super impressive at 25 years old. And then with that opportunity, did that person kind of act a little bit as a mentor or as somebody who kind of, you know, showed you how this can work as an entrepreneur?
Well, I wish he did. You know, he wasn't around a lot, and I had a staff of about 13, 14 people, and most of them which were older than me, and I just had to figure it out. I was lucky to get that job. It was just, I kind of fell into it. It was an interesting story, but no, I actually didn't get a lot of, other than, you know, he just said, hey, well, you know, I told him, you know, you've got too much cash, and your ROI is terrible on this cash. We need to start investing in. So he said, go buy some companies. So at 25, I went and bought companies, and then bought and sold them and flipped them. And I was making a lot of money for him. And that's what just gave me, and I was doing it mostly myself. And that's what, you know, drove me to, you know, I can do this myself. And when I came down to the U.S., I had no idea what I was going to do. I was just fortunate to come stumble across. I had 3 criteria to start a business, and a lot of people ask me, why I started Dental Select. And those 3 criteria are no inventory, no accounts receivable, and residual revenue. And that is a really tough combination of things. And because when I was in accounting, you see more. I was in public accounting for several years and doing audits and books, and you see way more companies fail by far than succeed. And I found the common denominator was cash flow. It's always cash flow. That's what makes a company fail. Whether you're losing money or making money, cash flow, you can run into cash flow problems. And those are the 3 core things I saw consistently cause cash flow problems: inventory, accounts receivable, and then residual revenue. And that was basically your revenue is too cyclical and it goes up and down and seasonally or whatever. And so I saw this dental insurance thing. I thought, oh, no inventory. It's a financial service, and no receivables because the employees paid part of the premium, and there's a fiduciary responsibility for the employer to pay us, and we would stop paying their claims if they didn't pay the premium. So we never had accounts receivable, and of course residual revenue. In 31 years, we never had a down quarter in our growth. And it's because when you don't buy dental insurance one quarter and then stop the next and then pick it up again the next quarter, you keep it going. Occasionally we'd lose a customer to a competitor, but we'd gain enough that we'd always grew. And so I hope I answered your question. Probably went off a little too long.
No, that's excellent stuff. So 3 keys that you mentioned there in selecting a great business. Number 1, you don't have to get inventory because there's all those financial risks of the upfront capital, and then the accounts receivables where people may or may not follow through and pay those. And the third one, and I think this is actually one of the questions I was going to ask, is how important it is to have recurring revenue and recurring income coming in. And in the insurance industry, that's kind of what the entire thing's based on. So having that recurring income, what is it like? Because there's so many businesses that could have recurring income streams, or they could add that in somehow, some way, but they don't. What is it about recurring income that helped your business so much? That's unbelievable. 31 years of consistent quarterly growth, revenue, and profits.
Well, it's kind of why all the software companies are going on a subscription model now. Mm-hmm. It is, waiting till you have a new product, waiting for this, Christmas season to come up, or to pick up your revenue. You can't predict cash flow. You try to as best you can, but it's very difficult to do that. That's not to say those businesses can't flourish, and many do. I'm just saying it eliminates some risk. So your odds are a bit better if you can have residual income. But yeah, that's really one of the great things about our success was that, because I never had those severe cash flow problems. I did have cash flow problems. I remember going through the recession in 2008, and our claims went through the roof because everyone thought they were going to lose their job. And that was a bit of a struggle. So businesses aren't invulnerable to cash flow problems, even ones that have residual revenues, but because expenses can go up and down sometimes. But it certainly takes an element of risk out.
No question. So for a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs, there's different entrepreneur classes and college courses, and there's accounting that talk about cash flow. But for you, how do you define cash flow? And it sounds like you've got it down to a science on a weekly, monthly basis. How do you know when your cash flow is going the right direction, and how did you define it in your business?
Well, first thing you do is get someone that knows what they're doing, because cash flow it's a little bit like throwing darts. And you can get, people that are really good at it, you're going to get close to the bullseye in predicting what the cash flow is going to be. And then, you have to understand the financial side of an organization, that cash flow is the blood of a business. And without it flowing, it's dead. And so you need to have someone that knows what they're doing in that. And whether it's just someone on the side part-time, or if you have the budget, someone full-time that really understands it. Fortunately, that was my background. So when I was small, I understood this. Of course, a few years into the business, probably like 7 or 8 years, then I hired a CFO and handed all that over to that person so that I could focus on the growth. But that's really the most important thing is if you don't understand how to do cash flow, and you don't understand how those financial statements work, doesn't matter how good your idea is, you can go under real quick, even if you're making money.
No question. So you mentioned the recession of 08, 09 and different challenges and failures that we all experience as entrepreneurs. How did you overcome some of these challenges and obstacles, and what were some of the keys to getting through those challenging times that happen to every successful entrepreneur at some point?
Yeah, well, you have to make tough decisions, and they're not fun. Now, owning a business and having employees and having a lot of customers, they all rely on the business of some sort. And unfortunately, when we went through the 2008, we had to make some cuts, and it was not fun. But you got to make those tough decisions. The pulse of the organization in my industry is people. I can walk in there on a weekend, back when I owned it, and it was dead. It was just completely, void of people. But when they were there, it had life. And so, those people are who I tried to take care of the most. My employees actually really came up in front of my customers. And that seems kind of backwards to some people. But if you put employees in front of customers and you really take care of them and you care about them, and you make them feel like they're part of changing the world, they will do amazing things for you. And that taking care of the customer just happens. But those are challenges. Employees are challenges. People are challenges. There's so many broad aspects of personalities, and it takes a long time to figure out how to hire that. And it's the school of hard knocks. And it's almost not teachable. You have to go through it, and you have to go make that mistake of, you heard that thing, hire fast or fire fast and hire slow.
Hire slow, yeah.
It's real. That was probably my reoccurring mistake. As a business owner, if I was the shareholder and I was the board of directors, or I controlled the board of directors, let's just say, and I was the CEO. So the hard part is defining, splitting off your responsibilities, and I wasn't good at it at the beginning. And my compassion as a shareholder going, oh, this person, I want to give them another try. And of course, or as a CEO, I was feeling that. And really, if I had shareholders I had to report to, I would go, I got to let this person go now, instead of giving them another chance or the third chance, or, or hiring them back, which is a big mistake that one mistake I've made big time. So you have to, if you're the owner, you have to learn how to segregate those responsibilities, and you have to act like there's someone that can fire me. This board of directors up there, even though they really can't. What if they could? How would I make this decision? And but when you own it, you because it's yours, and there's no one to say, Brent, you did a bad job. There's no one to say that. You kind of get a little bit of a soft heart, and sometimes too soft, and it doesn't do anyone any good. It doesn't do that employee any good. It doesn't do all the other employees that are within your organization any good, and it doesn't do your business any good. And so yeah, failures. I would say my core failures, if I had to kind of lump them, were probably mostly personnel. Learning how to do that, and then figuring out how to hire right. And of course, it's the last 10 or 15 years I finally figured that one out. It's tough.
So what is that? What did you learn from the first half into the second half that made you that much more effective at finding the right people, or knowing that you have the right person in the right position, it's the right fit, and you can trust them?
Well, part of it, I think, is as your business matures, and as you figure out how to do things a little better, and what is your defined goals. If you have your goal defined, and I had them, but it was kind of loose at the beginning. And when you have loosely defined goals, it's hard to attract people to a loosely defined goal. And I know companies that are nowadays are doing a much better job, I think, at right out the chute on defining what those are, so that you can attract people and they understand what you want to do. So as the company progressed, what we were trying to do was far more defined and than what it was in the past. And what I found is that people want to be a part of something that they feel they're going to change something in the world, whether it's big or whether it's small. They just don't want to sit there and do repetitive, although sometimes it is repetitive, but without purpose. And they want another part of changing something. And once I started focus on we're going to change the world. We're going to take this boring dental insurance. I mean, insurance, like seriously, huh? It's about as old and boring as you could possibly be. And it was when I started to turn it into a tech company. Is when we really started to change our culture and change how things was. And that's where we started changing our how we communicated to new hires and team members, so that they would, and it would attract them, and they would want to come work for us because we had real purpose. Even though it was an old school, old line, very conservative and very highly regulated, I'll add, highly regulated business. I mean, for us, we were in 46 states, and every state's a country with insurance law. They all do their own laws. And there is overlap, of course, but they all do their own laws. So that was, in getting everyone around that complexity, and usually there's a lot of structure around that. We were able to finagle around our culture to still have that structure, but we were changing the world.
So it sounds like as you progress, the more you turned your business into a mission, and hey, we're on a mission, guys and team, to create the best dental insurance experience to really help families with their dental care. And once it was more of a mission instead of just a job, just a business, it sounds like that was kind of the key to creating a culture. And more than money, I think that's the biggest mistake a lot of entrepreneurs make, is they think, well, it's really just about the income and the compensation package and all the benefits. But it sounds like of equal importance, and this is what I've started to see too, and you've noticed it, is people want a mission. They want a purpose, something that's bigger than themselves. And it sounds like that was really the key to your culture and getting the right people too. Yeah,
it was really driven by the, back in 2012 by the Affordable Care Act, when it actually went into play, and we're going, okay, this thing's real. It actually is happening, because it just doesn't ever feel like it was going to happen. And the new added regulation that came from that, and the new defined benefits that came from that. So it really looked to me that we were becoming a commodity. It's like utilities. Utilities regulated. This is how much money you can make. This is the market you can be in. And all those things. And I just saw, wow, we're all heading into becoming a utility, and we're all, maybe like an unregulated utility, like they have in parts of Texas and things. And when you're in that environment, it is very difficult to differentiate yourself other than price, which is the worst place you can be in an industry. Is the only difference you are from your competitors is price. and because we're kind of offering the same. So we pulled back, and I decided that, well, what's going to make us relevant in the future? And because we're all the same, we're selling the same widget, and it was really the customer experience, because health insurance, which the dental insurance falls in that bucket, out of the 35 industries that are surveyed every year on customer satisfaction, health insurance ranked from 0 to 6 from the bottom every year. You can go back and look at the American Customer Satisfaction Index. Out of 35 industries, the best year a health insurance has ever had was 6 from the bottom. And why is that? It's because the experience is terrible. And it's not that the coverage is bad or anything like that, although there are some communication issues with that. And we really defined it into the financial transaction. Why is this financial transaction so complicated? So we focused on that.
So what did it take to create that better customer experience to set you guys apart from the competition?
Well, it took pivoting from being an insurance company that leveraged technology to be more efficient, because that's what most insurance companies do. They use technology just to operate, to becoming a technology company that happened to do dental insurance. So it's a massive cultural shift, and it took hiring the right people. You almost have to have a minister of culture, in your organization to change. The other thing that we did is you need to change your facility. You have to have a place and a feel. Of course, right now no one's in facilities, but pre-coronavirus, we turned into a tech company. You walk into our office, we're not an insurance company, we're Google. That's what we looked like, and our acronyms were that we were rebels of the insurance industry, which was so anti-insurance, and that's exactly what we called. We have called ourselves rebels, and there was meanings to all of those letters, and that's what we pounded into everyone all the time, is that we're rebels, and we are now a tech company, and. Not to say that you have to be a tech company to make something successful, but we really did need to become a tech company, because that was the problem. In our industry, a lot of companies lease or use other companies' software. So if there's 10 to maybe 15 clients on this particular software package that we're basically leasing, we all have the same technology. Well, technology is the differentiator in this era. And if you cannot be a successful company and rent technology that other people can also rent. It's impossible, because that's the only way you can differentiate yourself. Is technology is the experience. It's the mobile apps and of course the web, but even more importantly, the mobile apps and how they interact and how the financial transaction actually occurs. And for us, what we really identified was that insurance companies have somewhat of an adversarial relationship with the healthcare providers. We try to get them to reduce their prices through contracts, and then they feel like we're trying to control their business and telling them what to do and what care to do. So we have this. It's kind of a love-hate. Without insurance, the dentists would have less money, because we're collecting money and earmarking it only to be spent in their offices, which is why the dentists are so financially successful. But at the same time, they look at us as someone that's trying to control them and limit their and which a lot of it is just things that aren't really true. We've felt that we could work together. And because of that adversarial relationship, we don't communicate. And when we don't communicate, the financial transaction has no communication. And that's why it takes so long. It just takes forever, because we send everything through one way electronically, and then we communicate through the mail after that. That's how it works in America today. We use that 250-year-old technology called the U.S. Postal Service to actually communicate, because of that adversarial relationship. And it's so that's what we really set out to change and to fix the financial transaction, so that when you walk out of the dental office, you're done. You're finished. There's no EOB. There's no anything. You're done. You walk out. And it's kind of as liberating as the first time you took an Uber ride compared to a taxi. That complexity of the financial transaction before you open the cab door to get out can be sometimes difficult. Oh, the credit card machine doesn't work. He happens to not have change. And those kinds of things. But with Uber, you just get out, and it just totally took that away. And that's what we were focusing on, is just leave the dental office. You're done. You never have to look back again. And it's not that way today at all. And so that's what we were focused on with our technology.
So it was all about giving the customer a much better experience. And in order to do that, you had to have the right mission-driven culture and employees. But the real key put all that together was investing in your own proprietary technology that was yours, your software. And that's what gave the experience different and really set yourself apart. So it sounds like it's the software that you invested in, that you created, that's your own. And that's what really, has made a massive difference in your growth.
Yeah. It really comes down to that is you cannot, unless you're a tech company, if you want to go beyond, you want to go large, where you have lots of employees and you're serving lots of customers. And unless you're maybe a grocery store or something that really deals in commodities every day, if you're not a tech company, you're not going to be relevant in 10 years or less. And I feel the same way about the insurance companies that are out there. You've got to be a tech company first, because that's the expectation of the consumer. That is particularly the consumer that's under 45 years old. It is now the norm. And if you don't have it, they'll go somewhere else. And the organization that figures that out first will get the lion's share of the business at the beginning, until the other ones catch up, because they all will. And I do believe that what we've done and that they're continuing to do there is going to change the dental industry forever. Or at least the financial transaction side, it's going to change it forever. The whole, and there's opportunities around the world too, because if the world's, other
global, yeah.
They're even worse than what we have in America today.
So in terms of being that technology company, should that be defined for an entrepreneur? Should it be having like your own software for your client, for your partners? What does it mean when you say to become that tech company that sets yourself apart?
Well, not every company fits this mold, but because we were a services company, we were business services and individual services. Technology was an easy decision to make because of those services. If you're in manufacturing or something like that, it still plays a role, but maybe not as great, because it's not a service company; it's a manufacturing company. But it's really, if you have the right fit for a business, it's the only way you can be different from someone else. Because technology is hard. I had no idea how hard it was. I really didn't. And when I made that, here I'm an accountant in the insurance business, and now I'm going to be a CEO of a tech company. I got my nose bloodied a little bit, just figuring out how to do that. And everything takes 3 times as much money and 3 times longer.
Yeah.
Forget the twice thing. It's 3 to 4 times longer and 3 to 4 times more money. And particularly when you don't have the right people or you don't know what you're doing at the beginning. But you have to, I thought I had the right people, but again, that's part of that, those mistakes that you make. And I didn't have the right people at the beginning. Of course, they do now. And that's what made the company so attractive to be acquired, is because of its tech, because it's not easy to do. And it's very difficult for these large insurance companies to form a culture to do that. It's almost impossible because they're just too large. And so I always say these large companies, especially in my industry, it's like turning an aircraft carrier in Jell-O. It just takes, insurance is so conservative. It just takes so long to do anything. The auto insurance industry has actually done a better job than the health insurance industry on creating a little more of a customer experience. But it's all about that customer experience. But technology, getting into that technology is hard. Mistakes will be made. If you can get people that understand technology and have done it before on your team, that'll help a lot.
Absolutely.
I didn't have that at the beginning, but that would have saved me a lot of time and money.
So in a lot of businesses, there are certain key strategic partners who can really bring in a lot of clients. They don't take necessarily an investment in money, but kind of in building relationships. How important were strategic partners in kind of, growing Dental Select and taking it to that next level?
Well, there's two types of strategic partners. There's the operational ones, and then there's the distribution ones.
Yes.
And and I'll maybe separate those. From an operational standpoint, my goal was, particularly the last 10 years, my goal was, unless it touched the customer, outsource it. And we had 100 employees 10 years ago, and we had about 110 when I sold the company. That's because we outsourced so many things. Like, we outsourced a ton of stuff. And I even outsourced the underwriting, the insurance, the insuring part of it, because that required a lot of capital. And it was very distracting. And so everything, we outsourced absolutely everything. That's always my number one advice I give people. If it doesn't touch the customer, outsource it, because then you can focus on the customer. If you're not focused on the customer, you're focused on developing this team to do something that someone else can already do way better than you and probably cheaper, just because you feel like you need control, don't. Focus on the customer. Now, technology touches the customer. That's why we focus on technology. But so that's from an operational standpoint. That was my number one thing, was outsource when it doesn't touch the customer. When it does touch the customer, you want to control it. You want to own it. And then the other side is distribution. And distribution, relationships in that are, in our business, was super important, because we actually didn't sell the product direct to the client. We went through insurance brokers. And that is really difficult, because, you can't control, they're all independent, and we're all convincing them to try to sell our product over all the other companies that are trying to convince them to sell their products. And a lot of times we were spreadsheeted to, from 10 to 15 companies that did what we did, and we're all in a spreadsheet. And so why would they, other than price, why would they sell us instead of MetLife, for example? Big old MetLife. And it all comes down to relationship. And we focused on that relationship, and we nurtured them. And we actually did incentive trips. And it's not, incentive trips are actually, the incentive trips kind of got demonized after 2008. The whole AIG thing when they were in Hawaii, and then Obama kind of nixed all that because they were helping AIG, and so it just became, all the public companies just ran and scared from incentive trips. They still have, now they kind of use it as an excuse not to do them because they're costly. But there is absolutely no possible way we could have built the relationships that we have with the distribution, with the insurance broker and their spouse, without being on a trip somewhere for 7 days. I don't know. I don't care how many times I golf with them. I don't care how many times I take them out to lunch. But if we're in some nice place somewhere in the world and we're enjoying a vacation together, that was the best way to learn who they are. And I have so many relationships that are so strong and Dental Select has, that was part of their success, was doing what the industry, going the opposite direction, I guess, is where the industry was going. And I went towards incentive trips and things like that when they were running from it, because they could do other things that I couldn't do, and those things I could do, and we became really good at them. And so it's building relationships is not easy, particularly if you're selling directly to the consumer. How do you? I mean, that's a far more difficult relationship than my organization, where we had a few thousand insurance agents selling us, but we had hundreds of thousands of customers, so we could focus on those relationships and nurture them. The downside is if that relationship ever went sour, they would move that business to someone else, and so you didn't have control over the customer that was actually paying the money. I mean, you did through good service. I mean, they would not want to leave, but their insurance brokers have a lot of influence on their decisions because they make recommendations. That's why they have insurance brokers. So that's how I define those the relationship side on whether it's the expense side or the revenue side.
Well said. Awesome advice on those strategic partners and the relationships and the incentive travel. That is an amazing idea and something we're going to implement with some of our partner programs. Good stuff. So here's a question. One of my mentors says that if you're a part-time entrepreneur, you work 40 hours a week. If you're full-time, you work 60. And if you're all the time, you work 80. And so do you believe that successful entrepreneurs can have that work-life balance? What is your belief or strategy on that?
I wish there was an exact science to the, and a direct answer to this, because I think there's been a lot of blogs and books written about work-life balance, and some of it's BS and some of it's real. And a lot of it depends on your own personal situation. Are you single? Do you have family? Do you have kids? How old are your kids? What are their activities? I mean, there's a lot of, things that can affect it. But I will say that you have to, in some ways, when you start a business that's new, you're going to have to make some sacrifices. It's just the way it is. You can't sugarcoat that. And the harder you work, and the more time you put into it, there is, a point where that doesn't work anymore, because you get too tired, or if you start having marital issues or something, that's not a good thing either. But you have to expect to do it more at the beginning. I did. I was up at 3 a.m. all the time, just drumming up ideas on my computer, back when they were really old, 286s, and trying to figure out, how to do something or analyze something. And you live, and you're also wearing a lot of hats. So you just have to do what you have to do. But as the business grows, it's easier to balance it. And the problem is when it grows, you never can really escape it. I don't care what people say. Oh, I can go on a 2-week vacation. You cannot go on a 2-week vacation with the way that we're in a connected world anymore, without doing some email, without, I got to take a call because I got to, there's a decision that to be made. Now, I would say that over the years that got less and less. As my team developed, they were awesome. I have an awesome team. They're all still at Dental Select today. It was getting so I could not have a call for a week, sometimes 2, if I was out of town, gone on vacation. But you have to expect that at the beginning. And I know that some people deal with it better than others, but you only know your situation. There's no one way of doing life balance. It's, it depends what your hobbies are. It depends, like at the beginning, I had golf as a hobby, but my hobby was my business. I wouldn't have survived if I would have just said, I'm going to only work 40 hours a week on this, and then I'm going to focus on my family. I had, when I started the company, I had 2 young children, and so, you're balancing all that. And it's difficult. I wish there was a straight up answer for it. You'll know.
I agree with you. I think it's just a calendar issue where you don't have any time to waste. You don't have time to watch TV and do waste of time stuff, really. You've got to pencil out some time for the family and the kids, and then, the rest of it, you might have to work every day from 9 p.m. to midnight because the kids just went to bed, and so you can't sit down, relax, and watch TV. You're going to need to dedicate that time until the business grows. But yeah, I definitely agree with everything you said there. Are there any books or mentors who had an enormous impact on your success or the way you thought as a business owner?
Well, this is the question that I do get on occasion, and it's the answer is usually comes by a little bit of a surprise, but no and no. I did not have a mentor at all. I didn't have a family member. I figured it out on my own, and I didn't read business books at all. I started reading them later, but like the last 10 years, maybe I was too busy, growing the company. And I was, business books are great and they gave me good ideas. And I actually recommend people doing it. I'm not saying I don't recommend doing it the way I did it, but in a way, I was pretty lucky. And I was also very self-taught. I did my entire 7-year accounting degree because I lived out in an oil patch way out in the middle of nowhere, working for an accounting firm. I was 3 hours drive from where the lectures were, and so I did my 7 years of education through correspondence. There was no internet back then. I did it through mailing in assignments, getting them back, and then challenging the exam. And these aren't easy exams. And so because of that, I learned how to sit down and read a book and learn it. And I think that that trained my mind in a little bit different way, because I didn't have any lectures. I didn't have any videos. There was no videos back then. And I just had to do it I had to learn how to learn on my own. And because now, I don't recommend that to other people, perhaps, but as a result, I never really focused on business books. I never had a mentor. I wish I did. I've had that question answered before, and I want to give something really cool and say, oh, it was this wonderful person that helped me, but there was no one. So that's just kind of how it all. Hopefully I'll be a mentor to someone, but I didn't have that.
Well, you're doing that right now, and that's what's awesome about today. There's technology and all these great resources in these podcasts and entrepreneur shows where you can learn so much from someone like you and your journey. But at the end of the day, I think the lesson that you're teaching us is that you have to find your own solutions within your industry, within giving your customer or client a better experience than the competition. And only you can figure those things out. You can't figure that out. The mentor who's not even in your field, or the online resources and the books, they're not going to tell you exactly what you have to do within your industry to make a difference and to stand out. And so that's, I think, the lesson that you're teaching. You have to figure that out, and you can if you dedicate the time and you're focused on the customer experience.
Mm-hmm.
So awesome stuff there. So we've covered a lot. Is there anything that we've touched on or that we haven't touched on that you think we should know or that's important that we haven't covered?
Well, really, starting a business is all about risk reward, and it's risky. And, I was fortunate. A lot of people don't make it through 31 years. That's pretty rare, actually. And I was very blessed by building something that ended up being something that another larger company wanted. But I can tell you the most important thing is people, and you need to have the right people around you. That's the hardest. Like, there's no people class. There's no college course for hiring people in business. Because it's experience, and so, but getting the right people around you is critical. And then the other thing that I did was, when I knew I was kind of getting ready for an exit, I didn't know when exactly the exit would be. And in fact, I was actually thinking I'll just raise some capital and even go bigger. But then the strategics really wanted to. I didn't know how badly they wanted our organization, but they did. So we ended up selling the entire thing. But when you're getting in a position where, all right, I think there could be an exit here, you need to make yourself irrelevant. Because when you get that payday, it doesn't matter how much you think I'm going to stay involved. I'm going to, I do consult back to the company that acquired us for a period of time, but you have to walk away from it, and you have to not turn back, and you just have to know that it's going to change, and you have to know that it's not going to be maybe what you want it to be. And I've had, and not that it's changed that much, but I can already see little things, because, management style and things like that. And when you have an organization that's acquired you, they have their ways of doing things, although they're operating it as a separate entity, which is great. So I hired about 5 years ago, I hired a person, and my intent was to groom them to be president, and I made him president about 3 years ago, and so he's president of the company today, and so I kind of made myself less relevant, let's just say, and that makes an acquiring company feel comfortable, because when the owner gets the payday, which is all kind of what we're all after in business, right? And you got this other thing to manage now, so it's called a lot of cash. And you've got to, and you've worked a long time to get it, and you become a little more risk adverse. I'll be honest with you, but you have to manage it and put a lot of time into that, and so these acquiring companies know that, and I really didn't know that. I'll be honest with you. I just thought, I'll just stay on as CEO, and they kind of no. The longest we've ever seen a person stay on is 6 months, and they were right. You lose interest. You don't lose interest, but your energy shifts to something else. So, and they knew that, and in their wisdom, they did know that. And luckily, I had a person hired that could take those responsibilities, and that actually helped in the sale. It made me a lot of money. I'll be honest with you, more value, because there was someone that still had a lot of runway with the company, and that would be around, and they wouldn't lose their management team right off the gate. So there's setting yourself up for a sale. That's the number one thing is you got to make yourself less relevant, and it's hard to do because you want to control it, but you have to. You'll be happy you did.
So to kind of encompass all the success here and the steps, great people are the key. Creating an organization that can run without you having to be there every second will make it much more valuable. Focusing on that customer experience and giving them an extraordinary experience that sets yourself apart from the competition, an experience that's connected to great technology that connects right to your customer, and then kind of bringing that all full circle with great strategic partners and recurring revenue. Like it's just a key. If you have a recurring revenue business, it's going to be seen as so much more valuable than a business that just gets paid, some lump sum payments here and there.
Yeah, and to put a layer around all that you just said, there's a lot that can go wrong in all that, and you have to have a lot of grit. You just got to get up and keep going, and at the beginning, it's hard, but it's worth it. That's why you do it. It's the American dream. Like I said, to sum it all up, I emigrated from Canada 31 years ago with $2,000, and I sold I won't say how much, but it's a significant amount, and anyone can do this. And being an immigrant was challenging sometimes. I was having to deal with visas and all kinds of things, and if you're born here, you have the biggest opportunity in the world. I always tell young people that. I said, you're born here. You're an American citizen. You can, whatever you want to do, you can do. Literally. but it takes grit. So.
Amen. Well, hey, Brent, we really appreciate you sharing your journey, the keys to success in building a phenomenally successful company and having a massive exit. And you've given us a lot of value today. What can we do to repay your value? How can we connect up with you? And what can we do for you, everybody who's going to listen to this and watch this for years to come?
Well, you're free to connect with me. I enjoy actually talking to people and helping people. I have a Twitter account under Brent G. Williams. I have a LinkedIn account. You can easily find me on LinkedIn under Brent Williams, and connect with me those ways. That's probably the easiest. And you don't need to remember my email address. You can just search for me. Just Brent Williams Dental Select. It's going to come up, and I'd be happy to help anyone. I'll be happy to answer questions, it's kind of what I kind of enjoy now, because I'm not running a business. I like to help other people now, because I didn't have that. And so hopefully I can make someone else's pathway a little less curvy and more of a straight line.
Absolutely. And one thing I would like to point out is that you also run or have overseen a phenomenal charity that does sealants for underprivileged children across the country. And I think that's an amazing legacy that you've built there as well.
Yeah, we're just winding that all down now. We did it for several years, and we really changed a lot of lives with kids with that charity. And we were seeing 50 to 70,000 kids a year, just putting sealants on their teeth and fluoride, and a lot of them which have never even seen a dentist before. So amazing. It was we definitely reduced the amount of dental problems they had, which was really one of the barriers to getting out of poverty. And so it was awesome. It was good. And Dental Select kind of administered that charity. And so we had a good time with it. We did a lot of cool stuff with the kids.
Perfect. Well, everyone can connect with him on Twitter, on LinkedIn. Definitely should take a look at Dental Select if you have not, for your own dental and vision insurance, because they do a phenomenal job. I've used them personally. So, well, Brent, we appreciate all your time. It's been amazing, and you have an amazing week. And thanks so much again for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Are you looking for more seven-figure secrets, content, or even how you can launch your own recession-proof business? Then check out sevenfigures.com. That's the digit 7, FIGURES.com, where we share more videos, stories, strategies, funding solutions, entrepreneurial education, and even the secret business type that's recession-proof. Thank you for listening, and if you're finding value in our podcast, please give us a 5-star and invite others to join the club.